Let's try this one more time. So this is for you, Jennifer, and you, Denise. Just wanted to share our data. I've tried a couple times, but I kept getting Zoom kept messing up on me. So let's try it again. Reconfigured, unplugged my uh like secondary monitor, which I think might have been the problem. But uh you guys didn't get a chance to hear my data, and we're just really super stinking proud of it. So I'm just going to share the data part with you guys. So I should be able to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So I hope this works because I've done about 5 different little 10-minute videos, and I don't ever get slides. I just get myself talking, and nobody wants to see that. So, real quick, well, hopefully. So let's talk about Idaho, right? So these are Idaho stats, and Jennifer, you're interested in this because this is what the NDCF can do, and I have a slide in here that talks about the NDCF. But so just I wanted to let everyone know that yes, our REO program focuses on the 9 rural counties of the rural areas of the 9 northern counties in Idaho. There are 10 northern counties in Idaho. Kootenai County, the county where our office is, where we live, is by far the most urban Idaho County, if that's a thing. It's not urban compared to like Seattle or Minneapolis, but it's urban for Idaho. So we're what we're talking about from here on out is the rural residents in the other 9 northern counties, and we just wanted people to know that we're not neglecting Kootenai County. Like we're still serving Kootenai County, and we're actually the only ones serving Kootenai County. In 2023, there was 340 car seat checks provided to Kootenai County residents, and our agency, Safe Start, provided 338 of them. So like 99.4%. So we just wanted people to know that even though we're talking about our REO program and serving the rural residents in these 9 northern counties, we're not neglecting Coeur d'Alene. We're still serving Coeur d'Alene pretty much at the same service rate we've always been. We've always provided about, well, not always, but the last couple of years, we've always provided anywhere to 300 to 400 car seat checks to people living in Kootenai County. So we're not neglecting Kootenai County. So let's look at our program in just kind of a map of Idaho. So here's Idaho. Idaho is really stinking big. We consider our program to focus on the 10 northern counties of Idaho. Uh, and this is them outlined in red. So this is our service area, what we consider. And then when we overlay our REO events on our service area, right, we have these little circles, and these circles are 6 mile radius circles. So it's from the center to the outside is 6 miles. So, excuse me, we figured that when we were looking at how to distribute our events and where we wanted to be, uh, we talked about, we want to cover we want as many rural residents to have access to our programs as possible, because that's what this program is all about, right? This program is about creating access for these rural families that simply didn't have access. So we figured a 6 mile radius is a good thing to say, hey, most people can make it 6 miles, right? So anyone living in these circle areas, the furthest they would have to travel to make it to one of our area events is 6 miles. And of course, they're placed on, population centers in the rural areas in Idaho. Going forward, we're not going to be talking about our activity in Kootenai County because it's kind of a different thing, right? Like residents in Kootenai County have access to our programs and services and safety resources pretty much every day of the year. We get phone calls all the time like, hey, I'm giving birth tomorrow. I need a car seat, right? So, and we have scheduled check times every single week that people can sign up for a car seat check. So, for our all intents and purposes, Kootenai County is served. So, what's really cool is when we look at our REO sites, the 18 sites that we do in Idaho, Uh, so our REO, we really cover, more than, 19,700 square miles in Idaho's 9 northern counties, right? And then that's a big area, right? For reference, that's bigger than the states of Maryland, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, right? No one's bragging about being bigger than Rhode Island, but yeah, I think that's pretty impressive that we're covering that area. And then what's really cool is more than 80% of the rural residents that live in these 9 North Idaho counties, they live within 6 miles of one of our REO events. So that's over 111,000 Idahoans. So we when we set this program up, we wanted to make sure that we were in the right spots for people to have access, because that's the whole part of this program. And we've done a heck of a job, I think. So more than 80%, over 111,000 Idahoans live within 6 miles of one of our REO events. So we're really proud of the way we've been able to distribute it and cover a lot of that population. So now let's get into the data. Can your data do this? Get a little plug for the NDCF. Sent them to you, said, hey, if you need Jennifer's contact information, let me know. There was a slide on misuse that I had to take out because I didn't have time. But if you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. But I looked at our misuse rates in what we consider our regular checks. So checks done for like through our office in Kootenai County versus our REO checks, and then versus our REO checks in partnership with tribal nations. That was really interesting. Uh, and I looked at the various types of misuse, looked at harness misuse, uh, various types of installation misuse, tether misuse, lower anchor misuse, seatbelt misuse. But we also looked at like expired the expired seats. We looked at uh, the history of a seat if we had a seat that had an unknown history. And we also looked at unrestrained children at check events. And it's a really striking to see the data on that, right? Because I mean, we have a fairly good sample size, but there is a 1% likelihood of a child showing up to one of our regular events completely unrestrained. Okay, that happens 1% of the time. Uh, there's a 12% chance that a child shows up to one of our REO events, right? Because they're rural. Uh, there's a 12% chance a child shows up to one of our REO events unrestrained, right? So that's quite a gap, right? But when we look at the REO events we do in partnership with tribal nations, children show up 40 completely unrestrained, right? Not in a seatbelt, not in a car seat, nothing. 48% of the time, right? So, and that's not a small sample size. That's a sample size of, I think there's probably over 100 checks in that sample size. 48% of the time they show up unrestrained. So, some really cool data that we have on this graph. I had to pull it out because I didn't have time at Lifesavers. But anyway, so let's talk about what our REO program has done, right? So this is this is check activity in the 9 northern counties in the rural areas of these 9 northern counties of North Idaho. Okay, this is 2023. So when I say organic activity, what I mean is activity that's happening in those counties without our help, right? Like these are check stations that are in those counties. These are techs that are in those counties that maybe do a car seat check here and there. This is everything that's happened without Safe Start's intervention or involvement. So this is what 2023 looked like in the rural areas of these 9 northern counties without Safe Start. Okay, you can see some of these counties had zero check activity, right? Clearwater, Latah, Boundary had one. You can see there's really not a whole lot going on. Nez Perce is actually a fairly small county. And they're doing a heck of a job. We have a really good friend in check station there, and she does a great job. But so they're kind of the outlier. But there's really not a lot going on. Okay. Now, when we look at our REO interventions, when we add those in, this is what Safe Start's REO interventions look like for 2023. Okay. So, and then we calculate all the math, right? So, what's incredible and what we're super proud about is Safe Start's REO program is responsible for over 90% of the seat check activity in 7 of the 9 northern counties. and it's responsible for over 65% of all the seat check activities in 9 of the 9 northern counties. So pretty incredible that what we've been able to do. Now it gets better. So let's talk about service access rate, right? And if you haven't heard of service access rate, it's okay because I just made it up like 4 days before my presentation at Lifesavers. So I decided I wanted to be able to measure not just if a community has access to a service. I want to be able to measure if they are actually using that service, right? So like we can take our truck and our trailer and fill it full of car seats and go down to Orofino, Idaho, and we can park in a field and we can serve nobody because we didn't do any advertising. We didn't have an effective partnership. We don't have people that we've built relationships with in that community. The past 2 years we've been doing this, right? If we don't do any of that and we just park our trailer and nobody comes, okay, we're technically serving that community, but is it doing any good, right? It's kind of like the whole tree in the forest thing, right? Like, yeah, we're there, but does it matter? Like, should we even be there? Does it matter that we're there if we're not doing anything? So service access rate, right? It's all about the rate at which a community's residents are able to effectively access a program, right? And we're not just measuring if they have access to a program, but whether or not they are using that program. So service access rate, for our purposes, we express it in terms of number of seat check interactions per 1,000 residents. So a real quick primer. Population A has 100,000 people with 150 seat checks provided to that population. Population B has 10,000 people with 25 seat check interactions provided to that population, right? So when we calculate service access rate, right, for population A, it's 1.5, right? And service in population B, it's 2.5. So what this is telling us, right, is now we can see it's obvious that there are fewer seat checks provided to population B. But what we also know is population B is accessing services at a rate greater than population A, okay, for whatever reason, okay? So that's what service access rate does. Now, the whole idea behind our REO program was to not only provide access to these rural communities, but to actually get people to engage and act and really use these services. Okay, so like I have no like this is a really tiresome, stressful program, and I have no desire to take my truck and trailer out and check 2 car seats. Right, it doesn't do anybody any good. So the whole point of this program, the entire time, is to get these rural communities where they are accessing services at a rate at least equal to Kootenai County. Okay, we know we know what families are accessing services in Kootenai County. We know what that rate is because we're responsible for that. So we have all these rural counties. Like we want to look at what they've done before, and we want to look at what they're doing after our REO program. So Kootenai County, right? Our service access rate is 1.3. Okay. So for people that have all the access in the world, they have access to us pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've come down at night to do car seat checks. I mean, it has to be an emergency. We don't like to make a habit of it, but I've come down at night to do car seat checks. We have a gal that comes in on Saturdays to do car seat checks for us. I do various car seat checks throughout the week. People have easy, reliable, ongoing access to the services we provide in Kootenai County. And this is what we see our service access rate. Okay, so this is service access rate in these 9 northern counties. That blue line, that's Coeur d'Alene. Okay, that's key because our whole goal is to get these communities and these counties accessing services at least on a rate commensurate with what Coeur d'Alene is doing, right? Like that's our whole point, right? Everyone talks about equity, right? We want there to be equitable access for families in these rural communities. If this is the rate that families in Kootenai County can access services at, we feel like everyone should be able to access services at those rate at that rate, and that's the point of our program. Okay, so here's 2022. Right, Benoit, service access rate of 0. There was no car seat interactions in Benoit County in 2022. Boundary, Clearwater, Shoshone, same thing. in the rest of these counties, right? 8 of these 9 counties had service access rates significantly less than families in Kootenai County. Okay. This is what 2023 looks like. Okay. Pretty much the same story, right? 8 of these 9 counties had service access rates significantly less than service access rate of families in Kootenai County. So this is how it's been for, and I haven't pulled the data for going any further back, but this is how it's been for, I'm sure, as long as car seats have been around. Kootenai County has a fairly good rate because we've always had a pretty good presence up here. And the other counties suffer because there's just not a lot of resources and it's a vast area to cover. So there's the cool thing. Ready? When we add our REO interventions in 2023 into this mix, and we add it into the mix with what the other people have been doing, this is what service access rate looks like in these 9 northern counties. Boom. If I had a mic, I would drop it. That's my big reveal. And I actually got applause during our presentation. So this is what service access rate looks like when we add in our REO interventions. So before, right, historically, 8 of these 9 counties have been accessing services at a rate significantly less than families in Kootenai County. Now, because of the interventions through our REO program in 2023, we've completely flipped the script. Now, 8 of these 9 counties are accessing services at a rate significantly greater than families in Kootenai County, right? So it's literally amazing. Like, we have completely changed, and I don't mean we, I mean our program. And our program is not just us, right? Like, yeah, we are the boots on the ground. We're the ones out there humping and schlepping and doing the work. But none of this is possible without like our amazing partners at, like, Buckle Up for Life. We have tons of funders. The NDCF, right? Like, I can't tell you this if I don't have access to the NDCF. Denise, you've been amazing and wrote about our program. So, like, this is what we've all been able to accomplish, is now rural families in Idaho's 9 northern counties. They not only have access to services, they are accessing them, they are using them at a rate significantly greater than families in Kootenai County. So I like to kind of joke that what we've done is we've turned Kootenai County, right, the spot that we live in, we've turned Kootenai County into an underserved population. Like, if you look at the data, right, Kootenai County now accesses services at a rate, significantly less than 8 of these 9 northern counties. And in 2024, when we have a whole year of our REO program, Kootenai County will access services at a rate significantly less than all of these 9 northern counties. Keep in mind this data, right? Like, we only did 1 cycle of our REO program. Our REO program is designed to do 2 cycles, one in the spring, one in the fall. We are just finishing up spring cycle right now. But when we have a full year of data, when I look at this same data, when I pull this for 2024, it's going to be even more incredible. Like, we've literally made Coeur d'Alene an underserved population. So, and then one more thing, right? These are our service access rates. And then I like to compare numbers. So I calculated what I call relative service access rate. So this is just the rate at which people are accessing services relative to families in Kootenai County. So, families in Benoit County now access services at a rate 2.3 times greater than families in Kootenai County, right? All the way up to Lewis, Families in Lewis County are now accessing services at a rate 6.8 times greater than families in Kootenai County. I think that's incredible. So our REO program, right? It's all about providing barriers, sorry, not providing barriers. That's the opposite. Removing barriers, providing access, and allowing rural communities to access services at a far greater rate than urban communities, right? This is the definition of equity, right? And I really wanted to say in my presentation, I ran it by Liz on the way down. I'm like, I'd like to say, boy, we really, in the car seat world, right? In prevention education world, actually, Liz is very into safe sleep, and it's the same there. But we really, really, really like to talk about equity. we really like to talk about it. Like we love to talk about it. We love to research it. We love to plan but you know, it's not that hard to do, right? And that was my point was, this crazy idea, it's not actually that super expensive a program. Uh, Anybody with a truck and a trailer can literally go around and you can literally change the entire landscape for people in underserved communities. So I didn't have the guts to say that, but I did want to say, like let's maybe less talk, more doing, because you can do it, right? Like this is proof that with, a little bit of elbow grease, that you can make a significant change in people's lives. And so I just wanted to share that data with you guys uh, because I think it's amazing. So thank you for indulging me and listening to me yammer, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And any questions, let me know. Thanks, guys. Hopefully I'll see you at Kim, I guess.